What's going on, guys? It's the end of the year, 2024, and that means I'm here to share my top 10 albums of the year. So my list this year, I was looking at it, isn't really that surprising. I think it's worth making a little disclaimer on this video, and I've touched on this in, I think, the past year or two, but I really am starting to feel it pretty heavily this year. I have lost the pulse a little bit. I feel like what's coming out these days musically is so fast and furious, it is almost impossible to stay on top of it, specifically with my job. As you know, I own a record store, so most of the week I am listening to records in my shop. Usually things that come in that I want to listen to, or things that I've heard about that I wanted to explore because it's at the shop and why not. I'm not so much getting in the new arrivals because either, they're not being traded in, or it's just something that isn't on vinyl yet. So because most of my listening all week is on vinyl, a lot of the things that are coming out through all of the various sources, whether it's Spotify or, Bandcamp or whatever it may be, I'm not really keeping up to date as well as I used to back when this channel first started. I was voracious when it came to music discovery. I truly couldn't stop finding things and sharing them with you all. But this year, my picks are fairly popular, well-known. There isn't a lot on my list that I think is going to surprise people, especially if you're fans of me and you know my music taste. But that being said, I have some honorable mentions I'd like to talk about, and then I will share my top 10. But I'd love for you to do me a favor and head to the comments and let me know what I've missed out on this year, because I know there's a ton of music that's come out that I've totally missed. Please share it with me so I can rectify that immediately. But that being said, this is a yearly tradition and we're going to do it. I think my list is good. I loved all the records that are on this list. There's so many records that came out this year. I feel like music is just getting more and more and more and more intense to keep up with, like I said. But let's talk about the ones that I did keep up with. We'll do some honorable mentions real quick. No order. L'Impératrice Pulsar. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I think I did. This is a really fantastic band that I've gotten into pretty heavily this year. It's kind of a French new disco band, so there's like some funky elements, some disco elements, some synth pop elements. I don't think this is their best record, but it's certainly a great listen front to back, and I am really hoping to get a chance to see this band next year. This is the new album by Crumb Amama. Just really masterful dream pop. Basically everything Crumb has done so far has been fantastic. They're one of the most consistent bands doing like dream pop and keeping it interesting, in my opinion. And I think this record is maybe their best record to date. I only got to listen to it a few times, and I definitely want to spend more time with it, but every single time it's a joy. Pixie, $1 Million Baby. This is a really, really solid pop record front to back. The reason I got it is because I saw there was a really cool pressing of it, and I was curious about it from that alone. It's a $1 million bill, classic $1 million bill, pressed inside the record, which is super cool for $1 Million Baby. And I got it on a whim saying, I bet you all like this, and I loved it. I thought it was just a really catchy, really fun pop record. And if you don't know Pixie, check her out. McG, 2-Star and the Dream Police. This record was super hard to find. Got a repress this year. Everyone was excited. And now it's again super hard to find. If you see this one pop up, don't hesitate. McG has kind of risen to meteoric fame very quickly. He went from being a relative unknown to playing SNL in the span of 1 year, which is kind of crazy. It's really good, kind of a little folky, a little lo-fi, with some elements of glitchiness and dreaminess throughout. It's unlike anything I've heard specifically. Like, I can't say, oh, this sounds just like this, because McG is kind of in his own lane right now. Definitely inspired by maybe like some like Bon Iver 33 a Million-esque type music, but this record in particular is a standout, and it almost made my top 10 list, to be honest. Jessica Pratt, Here in the Pitch. Really, really nice singer-songwriter stuff, almost like a female Nick Drake vibe at times. Definitely check this out if you have not. Also, the variant's super cool. I got the limited one. It's numbered, number 100, which is cool, and it matches the cover just so perfectly. So, yeah. Jessica Pratt, also someone I'm new to. Shout out to Austin for actually introducing me to her. And I'm excited to go into the rest of her catalog. She has a bunch of records. Then we have Lupe Fiasco, Samurai. So Lupe Fiasco is an artist I've always enjoyed his features, but for some reason his full albums that most people do love, especially like the early stuff like Food and Liquor, I never really got into them. I thought they were good, but they never really grabbed me. His last record, Drill Music in Zion, and then this record, Samurai, both have kind of won me over into the Lupe Fiasco camp. I mean, he's always been a talented MC, but I think these projects for me really shine cohesively front to back. Samurai in particular is home to some really, really beautifully epic beats. Some of them almost Nujabes-esque in terms of the kind of jazziness that he brings to them. But as an MC, he is totally in the pocket. Every single one of these songs is fantastic. It's a great album. And I don't have the record yet, but it's on order. Cindy Lee, Diamond Jubilee. This record made a ton of waves when it came out. It is like a 2-hour album that is unlike anything I've ever heard. It harkens back to almost music of the 60s and 70s, some of the kind of singer-songwriter stuff that was coming out there, a little lo-fi, a little dreamy. There's a lot of good dreamy stuff on this list, I'm realizing, and that's because that's kind of a lot of the music I'm gravitating towards lately. But the Cindy Lee record is a massive undertaking to listen to. It is 2 hours long. I'm glad they pressed it to vinyl. A lot of people are saying this is one of their favorite albums of the year. For me, it's something that I've listened to most of. I haven't gotten through all 2 hours front to back because it is kind of a long experience, but I've loved everything I've heard. I think there's an earnesty and honesty and something really nostalgic about the music while still feeling very fresh for this time. I can't wait for the record to come in because I'm going to give it a full listen and really kind of dive into it. But if you haven't heard Diamond Jubilee, check it out. All right, we're here at the list now. Let's start with number 10. We got Fontaines DC, Romance. Fontaines DC is another band that up until now I really couldn't get into. I was not like a huge fan of anything they've put out thus far, although I am not the biggest post-punk fan to begin with. That being said, I heard the single from this, Starburster, when I was hanging out at Limited to One in New York City, my friend Christian's record store, and I was literally stopped in my tracks and I was like, who is this? And he was like, it's Fontaines DC, it's the new record. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I listened to the whole thing, and it is not just a kind of gritty post-punk record. This record has so many other elements that kind of brought me into the fold and unlocked it for me. I mean, there are some dreamy elements. That's the keyword of this video, like I said. But there is that kind of gritty, dark, almost industrial post-punk sound in there as well. To me, this is easily their most accessible record and their most ambitious, because I do think they've changed their sound on this in a way that almost mimics the way that like Turnstile became a little poppier with Glow On. I feel like this is kind of their foray into more of the mainstream, and in a good way, not in a way that's kind of like, you know, diluting their music. Beautiful record. Number 9, we have a record that is not here yet because it's in the mail to me right now. Magdalena Bay, Imaginal Disc. I have been singing the praises of Mag Bay for a long time. I got to see them twice on their Mercurial World Tour. I got to meet them after a show. They were both so sweet. They have been doing some of the most interesting, catchy, and top-tier pop music for years now. I can't believe that they're not bigger than they are, and they did make a lot of splash with this record, which is great. I will say this, though. Maybe this is a hot take. I think that Mercurial World is still a better front-to-back listen than this one, although this one has some of my favorite songs they've ever done. The single, Image, is one of my favorite pop songs I've heard in my lifetime. It had such a stranglehold on me when I first heard it. I listened to it like 5 times a day. It's amazing. But the whole record is very consistent, very good. I didn't get a chance to see them on this tour, which is a huge bummer, but I did get the tour variant because they restocked it on their site briefly enough for me to grab it from the mock-up, one of the cooler looking records I've seen, and excited to get this one in and give it a full spin. Pop is really crushing it these days. I feel like we are blessed with so much really high quality pop music, and I believe Mag Bay is definitely leading the front in that. Speaking of an interesting form of pop music, Noga Era's The Vandalist is something that kind of came out of nowhere for me and genuinely blew me away. This record is just all over the place in the best possible way. I first heard of her music because the single Dumb was all over my TikTok. They were doing really fun, creative music videos for that song, and it is one of the biggest earworms I've ever heard, from the beat to the cadence of the way that she sings, to the sampling, to the switch-ups throughout the song. It is one of the best songs of the year for me. It's top 5 song, Dumb. That song is unbelievable. And the whole record lives up to it. There's elements of kind of the playful, kind of R&B elements of like Santa Gold in there, but you also get some of the more like darker indie stuff that Billie Eilish kind of did on her debut LP. There's a lot of different sounds on here, and there's some elements of rap, there's some elements of pop, but I will say that this record stands in its own lane as being something that feels very singular and not replicating anything before it, which I think is a testament to how good this album is. So definitely check her out. I am about to go back and listen to all of her old records, and I'm very excited to see the evolution of how we got to here. Tycho, Infinite Health. A new record by Tycho. Of course, it's going to be in my top 10. Tycho is one of my favorite artists ever. I have been literally talking about Tycho since my first videos as Damn It, Sandy. I mean, Tycho is one of the most consistent electronic projects because every single album brings something new to the table. This is no exception. And while it doesn't completely reinvent the wheel, I feel like it has given Tycho a newer, kind of more, at times, aggressive and dancier sound than maybe some of their chiller stuff they were doing during the Dive, Awake era of music, and even kind of pulling away from like the vocal stuff that they were doing with Saint Sinner for a little while. This record has a lot of energy to it, but it still manages to capture that classic Tycho sound. And I don't know if you can see just how beautiful this variant is on this, but this is like so subtly gorgeous. In person, this is one of my favorite variants I've seen in a minute. And the record sounds great. I saw them on this tour. They sounded super tight, super awesome. So because it, like I said, it hasn't reinvented the wheel for me, and it's not Tycho completely forging new ground, it's not as high on the list as I thought it might be when I knew they were releasing a record this year, but it is definitely firmly in my top 10 and an excellent addition to Tycho's basically perfect catalog. Another record I have, but I left it at the store like a dum-dum. Number 6 is maybe going to be a surprise to some of you, but hear me out. Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet. Sabrina Carpenter is a tour de force. She has become one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, rivaling, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande. Like, she is literally in the discussion as one of the most mega stars that we have ever seen grace the pop scene, especially in the past, decade or two. She started off as an actress on Disney. I remember watching her on Girl Meets World, which I only watched because Boy Meets World is my favorite show. And she was the standout on that show, which wasn't a great show, to be completely honest. She was fantastic, though. She was funny. She was charming. I really enjoyed any scene that she was in. And then she went on to become a pop star, as, the Disney factory tends to kind of have that as the conveyor belt for a lot of their stars. And I kind of ignored her music up until now. Like, I heard singles every now and again, but ultimately, I wasn't like sitting down listening to Emails I Can't Send or the records she came out with, because I was like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like I'm the target audience. And I may not be the target audience for Short and Sweet either, but it is impossible to deny that these are perfectly crafted pop songs. I mean, every single song on this record is unbelievably catchy, well sung, well produced, and every song feels different. There's not like a singular sound in a bad way that just homogenizes the record. She really explores elements of, like, there's like a countryish song. There's everything about this record is just masterful. And I kind of regret to say it because I know Jack Antonoff had his hand on this project, and I am a very vocal dissenting opinion about Jack Antonoff's production style. What I will say is he didn't ruin this record, and the majority of the songs on here that I love the most, after looking at Wikipedia, he did not produce. So I think that my gut reaction about how I'm not a fan of his production style probably holds true, but I will say the songs he did produce on this are also quite good. And yeah, overall, this is one of the better pop projects I've heard in a long time. I would definitely put this in the same general echelon as like Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion in terms of being something that front to back is captivating and catchy and unique. Number 5, we have Childish Gambino, Ada Vista. This is the finished and actualized version of the Untitled project he dropped in 2020, right around the time of the pandemic start. When he put that out, I remember listening to it. It felt very unfinished. It felt very half-baked, and I didn't love it as a huge lifelong Gambino fan. This version, Ada Vista, he really locked in and he perfected what he was trying to do back then by adding any missing features, changing some of the track list around, including adding the long-awaited fan favorite song, Human Sacrifice. Algorithm is one of the dopest hip-hop songs I've heard in years. This whole record, front to back, is a great listen, and I just think he really explores a lot of different stylistic choices on here, some of it more psychedelic, some of it more kind of aggressive, and genuinely, I think this record is worthy of the Childish Gambino catalog. I ordered the crazy Hyper Deluxe that was available for like 3 hours that has like an LCD screen in the box that shows music videos or something. I don't know when that's going to show up, but yeah, I'm excited, and I think this record is just stellar. Coming up at number 4, we have Pearl Jam's Dark Matter. It's no secret to anyone who watches this channel, Pearl Jam is one of my favorite bands. And it's also crazy that this late into their career, they're still putting out records this good. My take is that Pearl Jam is the best American rock band of all time. I find it hard to argue. Some people try to argue, but the sheer amount of records that this band has put out that to me are front to back excellent, if not stone cold classics, is certainly above and beyond any other American rock band I can think of in terms of quantity alone. A lot of people didn't like their previous record, Gigaton. I did. I don't think Pearl Jam's released anything less than a very good record, to be completely honest. Dark Matter, though, it really captures what I love about Pearl Jam. It has kind of the bite to it on some of these songs. They have like, Running, which is almost like a Bad Religion-esque kind of fast, punky song. Then they have like the contemplative opener, Scared of Fear. You have the Tom Petty-esque Wreckage. It really covers all the corners of the band as they get really in your face and aggressive and they get really kind of pulled back and in the pocket. This record is a fantastic addition to their catalog. I'm glad I got to go see them at Madison Square Garden, where I was in the pit, which was very cool. And yeah, this record is just an excellent rock record for a band that has been doing this for so long, since 91. Crazy. Number 3 is Kendrick Lamar, GNX. I don't have the record yet, but I will at some point. Kendrick surprised everybody by dropping GNX, which a lot of people are considering to be a mixtape. I think it probably is a mixtape as well, and the logic, I think, that makes that the case is that he put The Heart Part 6 on there. And historically, Kendrick has released his The Heart songs on mixtapes, not on studio records. So people are speculating that there might be another Kendrick record coming next year that is the follow-up to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Mr. Morale, for me, didn't do it for me. Kendrick has been one of my favorite rappers since Section 80 and, solidified with Good Kid, Mad City. And genuinely, I feel like he can do no wrong. Mr. Morale, for me, had a couple really great tracks, but a lot of it was a little forgettable and experimental for me and wasn't quite the direction I was hoping Kendrick would go after the impeccable Damn. And this record, this mixtape, whatever this is, has really brought him back into the energy that I love. He's playful on this record. He's aggressive. He goes for throats, but he also can kick back and drop the best beats you've ever heard. The beat on Squabble Up is just so unbelievably infectious. That has become one of my top 10 Kendrick songs, without a doubt. Every time I hear it, it just makes me so happy. But he just delivered song after song that are classics. He's rapping again, which is really nice, the way that he's kind of showing that he's not just going into this kind of artistic art rap thing, and he's really able to still hone in on to why everyone fell in love with him to begin with. His storytelling, his wordplay, his just ability as an MC is almost unrivaled in hip-hop, and I think GNX is just a fantastic listen front to back and was totally unexpected from him. If we do get another album next year, I'll be very excited. Number 2, another record I don't have, but I will eventually, is, again, Childish Gambino, Bando Stone in the New World. Bando Stone is apparently the final Childish Gambino album, and people are speculating, does that mean Donald Glover is going to start releasing things as Donald Glover and not Gambino? And that's very likely, I think. But as the final Gambino record, we got something magical, because he not only harkened back to almost every era of his career, doing stuff that's super soulful, like from the Awaken My Love era with kind of the funky soul stuff he was doing, all the way back to like Camp, where he was just doing some straightforward rapping, to Because the Internet, where, he's really kind of all over the place with some really next level beats, while also being very clever and rapping his brains out. This record has everything. I mean, Yoshinoya is one of the hardest songs he's put out as a rapper, but then we have something like Steps Beach that is just unbelievably gorgeous to listen to. And then my favorite song of the year, Lithonia, where he dips into almost like an emo rock thing. There's nothing that Donald Glover can't do. He is one of the most talented people on this planet, and Bando Stone is a testament to how talented he is. As the final Gambino record, I think this leaves his legacy with a solid 2 thumbs up for me, and I loved this record. I can't get enough of it. I do think that maybe not every single song hits, but it's a very long record, and I would say 80 to 90% of it is fantastic, and that's a pretty good ratio, I think. This definitely got some of the most play for me this year, so yeah. Super stoked that we got an amazing Gambino record in 2024. Super bummed that he had a mysterious illness that he talked about and he had to cancel the show. This is now the 3rd or 4th time that I've had to miss Gambino. I have never seen him live, and now I don't know if I ever will, which is very sad, but I hope he's doing okay. And the number 1 record of the year for me is Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us. And shout out to my boy Josh Crotto for getting me a signed copy when he went to his show. I also got to go to see them twice on this tour, thanks to my boy Adam, shout out to him. 2 times in a row in Minneapolis at the Armory, which is actually one of my favorite venues I've been to. It's a really, really, really great space. Only God Was Above Us is the follow-up to Father of the Bride, which was the new iteration of Vampire Weekend. They kind of stepped away from the Rostam era of those first 3 records, and Rostam left the band. They brought in some new players, and they went in kind of almost a more jam bandy way for Father of the Bride. Definitely has a little bit of country leaning, a little bit of, like I said, kind of that jam band vibe, but also very intrinsically Vampire Weekend, especially lyrically, especially melodically. And I love that record. It did divide the fans. I think a lot of fans didn't love Father of the Bride. It's my second favorite, I think, right after Contra. But this record, Only God Was Above Us, is kind of this beautiful retrospective of everything. The way I just talked about Gambino's record, I think Vampire Weekend did the same thing. I can pick out little sonic pieces of every single record they've done up until this point on this record, from the straightforward kind of Afro pop stuff that they were doing on their first record. Everything about their career has been building on itself in a way that is kind of unexpected, and this record still forges new ground while taking what we love about Vampire Weekend and kind of just dispersing it across it. I thought this record front to back is amazing. There isn't a single bad song on here, and seeing the songs live was truly a spectacle. Everything about this is just, this is like basically a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for me. And again, they don't miss. There hasn't been a bad Vampire Weekend record yet, which is why they're one of my favorite bands. And Only God Was Above Us is no exception. Mary Boone, I think, is the standout track for me. That breakdown in the middle, everything they keep doing is just the most earwormy, ear candy I can think of. And yeah, everything about this record, from the lyrics to the melodies, just the piano playing, everything about it is wild. And yeah, good job, guys. You guys did it yet again. All right, those are my top 10 albums of the year plus honorable mentions. Make sure you leave a comment below with your favorite records this year, and let me know if there's anything I missed that I would have absolutely loved, because I need the help. I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm up to my neck in listening to albums from all eras and all genres, so I need somebody to help rein me in. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, in the new year, my 7 Grail video will be coming out in January, where I talk about if I was able to acquire the 7 Holy Grail records I sought out to acquire last year, and what my new ones will be for 2025. So make sure you look forward to that. That's always one of my favorite videos to make every year. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if I don't do another video this year, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and I'll see y'all in 2025. Take it easy.